So I mentioned in a previous video that case reporters are the place where you can find case law, and so in this video we're going to be talking more about case reporters. So to begin, there are two types of reporters. There is the official reporter, and then there is also national reporters. So let's talk about the official reporters first. So the U.S. Supreme Court has an official reporter called the U.S. Supreme Court Reports, and this reporter publishes cases from the U.S. Supreme Court and only the U.S. Supreme Court. There is no official reporter for U.S. Courts of Appeals. There is, however, an official reporter for each state Supreme Court, which is known simply by the abbreviation of the state. And I don't know exactly what they're all called, but I assume it's just the name of the state Supreme Court reports. So Washington Supreme Court reports. Um, and then each state intermediate court also has an official reporter, which is known by the state abbreviation plus this app abbreviation for appellate. Trial courts generally do not have official reporters. So then we move on to the national reporters. And so there is a national reporter specifically for the Supreme Court, which is known as the Supreme Court Reports. There is also a national reporter for federal courts of appeal, which is just known as the Federal Reporter, or just F for short. And there is also a national reporter for some federal trial court decisions, which is known as the Federal Supplement. And then there is also one for that's called the Federal Rules of Decision, or FRD. So both of these publish cases from federal trial courts that have legal significance, and the Federal Rules of Decision is specifically limited to federal trial courts that decide cases involving federal rules of procedure. The national reporter then has various regional reporters, and these include the Pacific Reporter. I'm going to scroll down here so I have some more space. The Pacific Reporter, the Atlantic Reporter, the Northeastern Reporter, the Northwestern Reporter, the Southwestern Reporter, the Southeastern Reporter, and then the Southern Reporter. Make sure I got all of those. I think I did. And each of these reporters is responsible for publishing both state Supreme Court and state appellate court decisions in their respective regions. So each of these reporters is responsible for a region of the country, and they publish all of the state Supreme Court and state appellate court decisions in that region. And just to give you an idea of these regions, I'm going to pull up the map of the National Reporter System, and you can see in red is the Pacific Reporter, so that's the Pacific region. And then in cyan, you have the Southwestern Reporter. In blue is the Southern Reporter. In green is the Southeastern Reporter. In orange is the Atlantic Reporter. In purple is the Northeastern Reporter. and then in yellow is the Northwestern Reporter. And so all of these regional reporters provide sort of a comprehensive coverage of the judicial precedents in state courts. So these case reporters are all still published in a printed format. In the age of internet research, however, most lawyers are not still finding their cases in the print format of the reporters. Instead, they find cases on legal databases such as Westlaw or Lexis. However, because citations to cases still depend on what reporter published the case, it is helpful to understand how those reporters work. And so, with each reporter publishes volumes, and usually once they get to volume 999, they have to start over and create a new series. So after volume 999 of, for instance, the Pacific Reporter second series, then they would start over with the first volume of the Pacific Reporter third series. Now, not all decisions issued by Supreme and appellate courts are published in these reporters. And so there is a selection process where a court will decide whether it wants to publish a decision and create a binding precedent. And if it chooses not to publish the decision, then that decision is known simply as an unpublished decision. And unpublished decisions, importantly, are not binding. So they do not create a binding judicial precedent. And in the old days, before the internet, it was fairly difficult to find these unpublished decisions because you couldn't find them in the national and official reporters. However, in the age of online legal research, if anyone with a subscription to Lexis or Westlaw is able to access a ton of these unpublished decisions, and it's easy to stumble upon them, and you just have to be aware that they are not binding precedent.